Hi everybody, welcome to today's Icehouse Podcast. I am Bryar Stewart, the Community Manager here at the Icehouse, and today we have someone joining us from Rarotonga, we've decided. Laurence Sherriff. He is an Manager Programme 49 alumni, and he is the founder and managing director of Align. Align are all about bringing places and communities to life. So we're going to have a conversation about that today and a little bit about Laurence's business journey. So thanks heaps, Laurence, for joining us all the way from Raro.
Thanks, Brian. It's great to be on the show, or the podcast, I should say.
Absolutely. No, it's cool. Nice. Well, I like to start these conversations with just some fun quick fire just to warm us up. Are you happy with that?
Yes, go for it.
Awesome. So first things first, what's your coffee order?
Dark and strong. An espresso if I need to wake up. Sometimes a flat white with coconut milk, and if I need a treat, an affogato.
Ooh.
And I also enjoy a cup of tea later in the day, usually Lady Grey.
Yeah. Awesome answer. When are you most relaxed?
When I'm surfing or fishing or in the vegetable garden. Sounds like a strange mix.
No, that's a great answer. I'm just currently doing my first veggie garden, so I understand. What does a day in the life of Laurence look like?
It can vary. Recently, I've been starting at 5 a.m. in the morning with our boxing camp, and we usually box for about an hour.
Wow.
And then sometimes we have a coffee after that with the boxing team, or I head home for breakfast.
Yeah.
And then I wake up teenagers and wake up teenagers and wake up teenagers. It takes about 9 goes to get them all up and moving. They're all at home at the moment. And then I get into it. I start planning for the day. I listen to the news. It can either be RNZ or Tova O'Brien on Today FM, and I even listen to Mike Hoskins sometimes on News Talk ZB.
Nice.
And then I read the Business Desk and the Wall Street Journal and the Australian Financial Review, and sort of look at the markets.
Awesome.
And I find that very useful to get context on the economy. Then I usually talk to my general managers for about 15 minutes and find out what they're doing for the day. And then usually after that, I work on the business. I've thankfully managed to escape the mouse treadmill syndrome, and I'm currently working on strategy, getting a contract management system and a company dashboard. And 2 days a week, I have boxing training with a coach around lunchtime. And then in the afternoon, I usually do all my talking to people or aimlessly wander through strange thought patterns. And then 2 days a week, sorry, it sounds all boxing.
No, it's good. So we're going to get to boxing soon.
I have the Fighters Club, which involves me getting beaten up by a bunch of 25-year-olds.
Nice.
And then an hour of box fit or pad fit after that. So I'm usually wrecked after all of that. Then a bit of gardening if it's a nice evening, which I chill out with. And then in the evening, I try to converse with the children or the kids or the teenagers if they want to know me and they're around. Teenagers are lovely creatures. I'm being sarcastic.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. No, that's an awesome look into your life, Laurence. Thanks for that. And yes, we're definitely going to be unpacking the boxing part of your story very soon in the rest of the podcast. But let's finish these quick fire. Party with 5 or 100 people?
Both. Recently, I've been in 100 people mode, especially after the boxing camp, and I've loved that because the group's been very multicultural, mainly consisting of Polynesian people who I've really fallen in love with.
Cool, that's awesome. And book or podcast that you recommend?
Mainly a book reader, and I'm reading a book at the moment called The Eighth Life by Haratishavili, if I pronounced that correctly. And it's about, it's a bittersweet saga about the lives and passions of 6 generations in a Georgian family, and it sort of covers the Red Century across Europe and revolution and war and tyranny and oppression and the onset of freedom. And it's sort of the family had a business which made a chocolate elixir, and so the whole thing's based around that, but it's all to do with politics and that kind of thing. But I also love sci-fi and fantasy, and I loved the series of books called the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant. So there you go.
Cool, great answer. That's awesome. Well, you've done well in the quick fire, so I know you'll be good to go for the next few questions. But we like to just open things up with this nice bold question. Tell us a bit about yourself. What are you passionate about?
I've sort of thrown in a bit about myself and what I'm passionate about and the story behind a line and how it came to life, because they're all sort of
Tell us about line 2. Yeah, for sure.
But I was brought up on a farm as a child. I had a lovely childhood. I went to school in Martin and then on to boarding school in Wanganui/Whanganui. I did what I had to at school to get by. And then you'll laugh at this, I worked as a shepherd in Hawke's Bay for a year and discovered that farming wasn't my thing. So I signed up for a commerce degree at Otago. And then my father, I finished my degree at Otago and had a great time. Then my father became quite ill. So I had to head back and look after the farm. And then you'll laugh at this again. I went over to the States and I was a cowboy for a year in the Midwest.
That is unexpected.
Very eye-opening. I rode around on horses, lassoing things. And then went to London after that and worked in merchant banks, which was handy. So it was from ranches to merchant banks, which was
that's very different, but awesome. Yeah.
And I guess I was in London for 4 years and travelled, but going around the world, I started to see what a poor shape the environment was in. You know, when you're in Asia and you see millions of miles of forest cleared. So I became very keen on the environment and went back to New Zealand and did a postgrad diploma in environmental engineering and then a master's in resource and environmental planning. And that got me into the renewable energy thing. And I went to Transpower, worked there for about 4 years, still doing my master's.
Wow.
And it was a good job, but I ended up not really liking big organizations and the waste that exists within them. So that's why sort of what drove me to start up my own business. I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
No,
and then I grew the business from about up to about 20 people. The first few years were really good, but then we had 2 recessions and I was diagnosed with bipolar. So, and everything turned pear-shaped. We were nearly bankrupt. I mortgaged my house. I didn't take a salary for a year.
Wow.
And it was very, very dark time, but fortunately I was supported very well by a few people. And I was diagnosed and was put onto the right drugs. And then we managed I started waking up again. It was strange. It was like consciousness was returning. And we rebuilt the business over the next 5 years. 20K by 20K, it was a very slow, long, painful process. And then we started winning some big government contracts and things came right. And now I've got 60 FTEs working for me and contractors, and fingers crossed we'll hit about 100 FTEs within the next year or so. So no matter how bad it gets, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh, wow, that's a mic drop moment, I feel. That's very, very inspiring, Laurence. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure someone listening may be able to relate, wherever they are in their journey of business or personal world or rebuilding, whatever that looks like for them. that's a really nice thing for them to be able to hold on to. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, it's a real risk for people in business, mental illness, particularly managers. There's a lot of focus on employees, but there's not
Yes.
much focus on owners and managers, who
Mm.
often are subject to way more pressure than, other people are.
Yeah, so true. It's such a massive topic. And so kind of wanting to I want to ask, how has that shaped your purpose today, that experience that you went through? What is your purpose in terms of what you do?
That's a difficult question. I think our mission statement probably summarizes that really well. We're essentially involved in public good, housing, social housing, and infrastructure. And I would say this is also the case with my people, it is about bringing communities to life, re-injecting and invigorating public areas through landscape architecture, through good urban design, through really sensible and good infrastructure solutions. So from a business and working perspective, I think it's about bringing communities to life.
That's very cool. I like that. What has been your biggest learning from building the business? If you were to go sort of back to the start and tell yourself something, give yourself a bit of a heads up, what would that be?
Not trying to do it all by yourself.
Great answer.
Get help from a board, get help from advisors, pass responsibility on to employees and encourage them to grow. Get help from networks. Don't try and do it all yourself. Otherwise, you risk burning out and suffering, particularly in the consultancy game, which can be grueling and tough and involves many casualties. I guess the other big learning would be is try and be a great communicator. Be upfront with people. Jump onto problems and issues as soon as they arise, sooner rather than later. Let your employees know what you're thinking too, and take them on the journey through good communication.
Brilliant answer. That's so cool. Why do you think business owners hold it just to themselves or do it all themselves to start with?
They probably forget. In my case, I probably assumed that people knew. It took them a while for me to work out that you just need to communicate your intentions in a really basic, open, obvious way. Zoe Dryden, I don't know whether you have heard her. She spoke on our follow-up course about intentions. So I think probably the biggest fault would be that people assume that their employees or partners understand what it is that they're thinking. It's as simple as that. Yeah,
that's really interesting. Nice. On the flip side of learnings, I'm sure there's been some highlights along the way. What is maybe one highlight that stood out to you? And then as an individual or a business, how do you celebrate those successes as they come?
When I was younger, I guess we'd celebrate success with a party, but now this may sound a bit strange, but I prefer to celebrate success through others. Take employees, for example. If you have a win, let them celebrate and enjoy your success through them. You'll feel much better for it, and it will mean more to everyone. I don't know whether that makes sense. It's the same with kids. It's the same with the whole lot of things.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
that's really cool. I like that. Let's unpack that a little bit. It's a really nice lead into what we wanted to chat a little bit more about, and we heard a lot in the quickfire, and that is your charity boxing match to raise funds for youth suicide. And what that world looks like for you and how that came about. So why don't you say how that came about and what the experience has been like for you?
Boxing came to me through a series of events. First it was fitness, then an exercise group in the gym. We had a boxing / Muay Thai guy turned up to take us through an exercise regime, and I talked to him after the session and started to train with him, mainly for fitness. And then after about 8 months of training, he encouraged me to join this boxing camp, which I was a little bit hesitant about because of my age. The age limit was 55, and I'm 55. So I was a bit worried. We were always on the camp, there was a choice there of whether you wanted to fight or not. You didn't have to fight. The camp went on for 3 months or so. It involved about 50 5 p.m. starts, about 50 sparring sessions, daily shadow boxing, pad work, fighters clubs, individual training, multiple beatings, multiple gas outs, minor concussions, pain. I guess you went through a period where your belief in yourself dwindled. It's hard to explain, but you were really pushed to the limit, and a lot of people fell out of the camp at that point. So it was a real test. The other thing too is constant injury.
Yeah.
I was visiting the physio 2 times a week.
Wow.
We ran hundreds of Ks, did multiple beat tests, stairs, bag work, 50 press-ups, sit-ups, squats, every day. It was so hard.
Wow.
But I had no idea what was involved in boxing. It's quite a noble sport. That probably sounds, and it's a real thinking game as well. If you go into a fight without thinking, you lose. It's an amazing team sport, but at the same time, an individual thing.
Yeah.
You rely on your team to get you there. But I guess the whole sort of charity side of it really struck me when I started to. You may have heard of Billy Graham's boxing school. He's been around for years, and he's took disadvantaged kids off the street and put them through a boxing program and turned them into different people.
Wow.
Set them up for their lives. It's sport's good full stop for kids, but boxing really does teach kids all sorts of things. It really is quite an amazing sport.
Yeah, wow, that's cool. What did that training do for your mind?
It teaches you to push yourself to the extreme,
Yeah.
mentally, emotionally, physically. It helps you to deal with fear. I've never experienced so much fear in my life.
Wow.
About 2 weeks before you box your match, you get matched up, it hits you and you don't sleep. You're just constantly nervous and anxious, and it wasn't just me, it was everyone. And then slowly, as you get closer to the day, you suddenly start to get happier and excited, and you look forward to it. But on the day, talk about adrenaline.
That's amazing.
It was an amazing experience.
That's so cool. Yeah, and a very cool purpose behind it, raising funds for youth suicide is such an important topic, and cool that it's sort of the charity that you decided to partner with during that season for you. That's very cool. I wanted to pop this question in there because maybe it's practical for the listener. What is your advice for owners that want to do something for their community or their local charities, but not really sure where to start or who to support?
I think start with something that you're interested in generally, because and get involved in it in one way or another. You might get it right first time and start to get down into the detail. It's like a career, it's not until you get into it that you start seeing the opportunities. But yeah, if you don't follow something that you're interested in or passionate about, you'll eventually lose momentum. So if you're a gardener, get into community gardening, help get the local community garden going. If you're into younger, empowering younger people, get involved in something that involves younger people. Giving is also a self-interested activity. It's an activity in self-interest where you help yourself to grow and learn, but at the same time you also help others.
Yes.
Get into something you're interested in and passionate about, and go from there.
Brilliant advice. Yeah, I think that's so true. Got to start from that point of passion for sure.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool to hear. And so have you decided you're going to continue boxing? What does that look like for you in 2023?
This afternoon I'm going to be, as I said, getting beaten up by 25-year-olds. So I'm going twice a week to fighters class. It's funny. There's nothing like a bit of pain. It really does clear your mind and bring you to your senses and bring you into the present. And it's just great physical exercise. And it's very tactical. Tactical. Gets you thinking. Yeah.
Have you noticed big changes in terms of your fitness levels and?
Yes, I lost 10 kgs, and I'm probably, pains and injuries aside, I fought a 25-year-old 6'5", 100 kg guy, and I was fitter than him. By the end of the camp, I was probably fitter than most of the young guys, mainly because I just abstained from alcohol, any unhealthy food. I really did focus hard on my fitness. It was very, very good physically, and as I said, emotionally and mentally. It was a great thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, so cool. Thanks for sharing that experience.
Lots of women doing it as well. Lots of, probably 40% were women, and like I said, it was very multicultural. I got to meet people from all walks of life and bonded with them very closely.
That's so cool, Laurence. Yeah, that's special. Thanks for sharing that. Would love to hear how you heard of the Icehouse program and what that looks like for you jumping on board.
I unsuccessfully pitched an idea to Icehouse about 3 years before, because I also had a little software company as well.
Yes.
And I learned about the courses then and was very interested in them. And about 3 years later, I decided to do the Owner-Manager Programme.
Awesome. Yeah, very, very cool. When you heard about the Owner-Manager Programme, was there any hesitations for you jumping on? You just like,
I did ring a few people up, and everyone raved about it, and I'd only heard good things. So I went on to do the program, and since then I've sent a few employees on the leadership course as well, and I probably will send more when they're ready and willing. We sort of have an open invitation to all the senior employees, although I'd happily put a junior employee through as well. So there's an open invitation there to do it. They just have to be willing and keen.
Yeah, and so with that, like having put, yourself going on the Owner-Manager Program, then putting your leaders on the Leadership Development Program, what benefits have you found from actually putting some of your team on such a closely linked program? Do you speak the same language, or what is it from your perspective that makes it so worthwhile?
I guess putting the team through the course helps them to understand me. And what I'm on about. You pick up new ideas and new jargon, and for them to be able to understand that is very useful. So it puts us all onto the same page. For me, it allowed me to look back at myself, and it gave me a very good idea of where we're at. It really reinforced the need to grow and to keep on going. And since the course, we've really focused on growth. We've doubled our turnover.
Wow.
We've been hitting gross profits in the bracket of 50 to 60%. It was a great course. I learned more about the analytical side, because I'm already sort of quite strong on the cultural people side of things. But I learned a lot about balance sheets. I was very focused on the P&L. I found Leon Grandy and Mike Atkinson very useful in that regard. And we listened to this guest speaker. He was a Cockney guy with tattoos from head to foot. And he was really amusing, but he'd grown a $20 million business. I think he was involved in recruiting people to work on vineyards and places like that in South Island. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
And as I said, I found Zoe Dryden's talk really interesting. It was on leadership and intent. And I found, she talked about intention versus an existential vacuum. And that really had a chord with me. Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, so cool to hear you got so much from the program, and to this day it's, the content's front of mind, which is brilliant. Yeah, that's really great. Is there anything you implemented sort of straight away off the program that sort of helped that growth, you think?
Yep. The growth plan, which we developed during the course, which was essentially a culmination of everything. I started putting that into action pretty much straight away.
Brilliant.
And I guess the other thing I learned was to keep a close eye on the quality of our clients via ABC analysis, etc. And it also helped us to vastly improve our sales and business development systems. We really weren't very focused on that, and we become a lot more organized, and it's making a big difference to the business. Yeah.
Awesome.
So went for it. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. It can definitely tell that you didn't just take it and put it in the bottom of the drawer and leave it, that you've implemented things from it, and that's the best way to get the most out of the program. So yeah, really great to hear. I'd love to hear, what value does being involved in the Icehouse community bring to you? I know you've kept in touch with, the likes of maybe Raywin or different people, but what value does that bring?
Well, as you're alluding to, the network is great. It's a big network. It's also quite a strong network in Auckland,
Yes.
which is good for someone in Wellington. And I made some good friends, and it was great to see other people's journeys and their success. And as a result of that, it was good to get advice from these people, but also to be able to benchmark yourself against what they were doing, which is so hard as an SMA.
Yes.
What do you compare yourself to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah, and I think we're actually about to bring out a tool that helps SMEs to actually benchmark themselves off each other and off our alumni base and, statistics of SMEs. So watch this space, because I think that would be a really cool tool for people to be able to use just at home before going on one of these programs.
Yeah, totally. That would be fantastic. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's really cool to hear. I'd love to hear for you, you mentioned before in the podcast around the growth element for you, going from the 60 to potentially 100 full-time employees. What does the future look like for the business, and also for yourself personally? What does 2023 bring?
The business is looking really healthy at the moment. Our balance sheet is strong, and you've probably heard about it on the news, but NZ's suffering from a massive infrastructure deficit. Stuff is starting to fall apart, as it is around the world. And we need more housing despite all the negative talk. If you look at the National Construction Pipeline Report for 2022, we're going to be hitting a 4 billion, that we're talking 4 billion per quarter spend on building and construction. In the energy sector, the Boston Consulting have just done a report for the government, and we're looking at a $42 billion spend over the next 8 years in the energy area. That is assuming we continue to strive towards a 98% renewable generation status by 2030. And NZ's water, stormwater and sewage infrastructure is going to need something in the area of about 180 billion over up until 2051. So, we're in transport as well. We're looking at 24 billion over the next few years, and we're right in the middle of all these sectors. So, fingers crossed, some of that work will come our way. For us, 100 FTEs within 2 years, and hopefully 120 to 150 FTEs in the next 5 years.
Wow.
And, heavy investment into new offices around New Zealand.
Yeah, wow, that's really significant numbers. Not many businesses in New Zealand actually hit that point. So very cool to hear you're sort of making waves in that space.
Yeah, we're in a bit of a pocket. The other thing we're doing is I've invited key employees to come in as shareholders, and we're just going through that process at the moment, and we've had a fantastic response. We're helping them so we're going to help finance them into the position, and but for me personally, I'm actually at a bit of a crossroads at the moment. I've been doing this for nearly a quarter of a century now, so I'm at the point in life where I think I want to start giving a bit more back. So, I may be out of the business in 10 years' time and doing something new. And I get a funny feeling, it could have something to do with mental illness, helping people with mental illness with a focus on younger people. So,
wow.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's so cool, and rounds off the conversation so well. You can tell that you've gone through your own experience. You're now going, what am I passionate about, and how can I pair that with a charity that is doing good work for these people? And how can I sort of inspire others to do the same? And I think that's really, really inspiring, Laurence. So thank you for sharing your story of giving back to the community, but also just what it looks like for you building a business from ground up and to the point of growth it's at now. A massive congrats does not come without hard work. So well done, and thanks heaps for sharing the story on the Icehouse podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been great to talk to you.